Hello, my name is Jacob Vallely, and today I'll be providing a summary on the bush food industry. The bush food industry has seen massive development and expansion in recent years, with the continued assimilation of bush food enterprises into the mainstream Australian food market visibly seen in the expansion of individual businesses, restaurants, and even tourism ventures. As the industry continues to experience growth and interest, concerns surrounding the level of involvement and input Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander individuals have in controlling the way their traditional foods are used, produced, and marketed have surfaced. At present, First Nations people are significantly underrepresented in the bush food industry. The 2019 Indigenous Native Food Symposium revealed that Indigenous Australians represent less than 2% of the entire bush food industry supplies chain. My honours thesis focuses on both the obstacles and opportunities for First Nations Australians who aspire to participate in the industry and how well they are able to establish themselves in the face of structural inequality, insufficient support systems, and lack of robust processes to safeguard Indigenous cultural and intellectual property, as well as Indigenous ecological knowledge. This work addresses current gaps in understanding to help in the construction of a system where Indigenous input and involvement can guide the progression of the industry. So far, my review of the available literature has identified three main issues that plague the bush food industry. Present throughout much of the literature is that Indigenous participation and involvement in the industry is affected by hesitancy to get involved due to fear of the exploitation of traditional knowledge, culture, and products. This hesitancy is endemic and rooted in a long history of exploitation of traditional knowledge and severe mistreatment of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, which has led many to prioritize and value the protection of their cultural and traditional integrity, customs, and livelihood over participation and involvement in the bush food industry. The desire of Indigenous people to safeguard Indigenous knowledge and culture is expressed in State Department reports in both Western Australia and Queensland, which both highlight the tension between increased commercialisation to meet demand for native foods and the preservation of Indigenous cultural and intellectual property and Indigenous ecological knowledge. On a more structural note, these reports emphasize the need to identify more traditionally appropriate ways to incorporate First Nations interests in the native food industry. This brings me to the second major identified issue: insufficient support systems. Through the Indigenous Native Food Program Queensland, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander entrepreneurs have the opportunity to further develop scalable Indigenous native food businesses and commercialize their bush food products. However, as discovered by Lee Ross and Mitchell, 2007, in their examination of entrepreneurship activities in the Torres Strait Islands, businesses and the motivations behind them are highly varied. Lee Ross and Mitchell argued that more specific, tailored support systems are needed to address the specific motivations of Indigenous groups so as not to homogenize the industry and the people involved within it. Literature on the topic is consistent in arguing that First Nations people should not be homogenized. While support for bush food businesses acknowledge the extremely important connections between First Nations people and their country, they then fail to reflect this within the support structures for First Nations peoples and create a system where the support offered is not aligned with localized First Nations interests or beliefs. While there are support systems for First Nations individuals in the bush food industry, they often fail to deliver significantly successful outcomes for bush food businesses as they fail to recognize and understand the complex needs, motivations, and aspirations of business-oriented Indigenous individuals. Visible over and over in the literature is the extent of structural equality faced by First Nations Australians, especially concerning Indigenous customary and traditional laws that are often rejected by the legal system in favour of copyright and intellectual property laws. Because the industry does not incorporate any kind of cultural and traditional understandings of knowledge systems, social relations, and appreciation of the customary sector of Indigenous bush food businesses, Indigenous Australians are left with ineffective support structures and underdeveloped infrastructure. Again, this comes back to the fear of exploitation. If the system is unwilling to recognise at least some forms of Indigenous customary law, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander fears of exploitation may be realised. Bringing the protection of intellectual property more in line with Indigenous customary laws requires the involvement of a wide array of disciplines and professionals, from anthropologists to legal experts to cultural knowledge brokers. Whilst the bush food industry offers incredible opportunities for Indigenous Australians to achieve self-determination, employment, and income, these various challenges limit their ability to fully realise these benefits. Addressing and overcoming these challenges will require collaborative efforts from government, industry, Indigenous communities, and academic research to ensure that Indigenous Australians can participate equitably in the bush food industry, especially since promoting increased economic participation has been repeatedly suggested as a means of reducing the disadvantages experienced by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in Australia. Understanding how these issues can be resolved is vital to providing more successful outcomes for Indigenous-owned enterprises and to creating better livelihoods for First Nations Australians. Thank you for listening.